Hello friends, I hope everyone's doing well out there today. I wanted to talk to you today about Tony Rice, Mary Chapin Carpenter, and John Wilkes Booth. Now I know you're probably thinking, how do these three people fit together? We're going to talk about that in just a minute. But before we do, if you like this channel and the videos on it, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel and like and share these videos with your friends and let them know what's going on. It will sure help my channel out a lot, and I would appreciate it. Back in 1988, Tony Rice released his album called Native American. It was on Rounder Records label, and it had a lot of great songs on it, but among one of the best songs on there, I think, is a song that was written by Mary Chapin Carpenter called John Wilkes Booth. And as you imagine, it is about the historical character and real-life person John Wilkes Booth. Apparently, Tony Rice was really interested in that part of history, that era, and he had read a lot of books on the Lincoln assassination and the characters involved in it, and had even visited some of the historical locations that were involved in that period of time there. Some of what I'm going to share with you today is out of this book right here I've talked about before and shared some information. The Tony Rice story, the Still Inside, the Tony Rice story, a really great book written by Tim Stafford and Caroline Wright. And if you haven't read it, I urge you to pick up a copy, and you won't be disappointed. But I wanted to share a few things in here. Tony Rice is talking about the Native American project here, and it was interesting, so I want to share that. He says Native American might have been recorded over a span of 2 years. There was a long lapse in sessions because I did a bunch of stuff for it, and then I didn't know what to do. John Jennings and I were palling around with Mary Chapin right before Chapin became famous. We did a lot of hanging out at the Birchmere and would go to clubs in the district and play at these hootenanny type gigs. Anyway, Jennings offered to produce some tracks for Native American. He ended up with Chapin's band, John Carroll on piano, Robbie Magruder on drums, Rico Petrocelli on bass, and John Jennings on electric and acoustic guitar. And he produced Nothing Like 100 Miles, the remake of Summer Wages, and 2 other tunes. That might have been the first time I ever thought, okay, I don't know what to do to finish this album. I don't know how to give this concept continuity. I kind of just dumped it in Jennings' lap. I met Chapin through Gary Oles. It was very common after a show at the Birchmere. You'd sit around with Gary and Linda and friends and drink beer till 4 or 5 in the morning. Chapin was there and we were hanging out. She overheard Gary and me talking about John Wilkes Booth. I told Chapin, you know what? If anybody could write a good song that would present John Wilkes Booth in the light of reality, it would be you. I bet it wasn't 2 days later, her and Jennings came in the club after everybody left and put on a cassette over the sound system. I said, how in the world did you do this so fast? And Chapin said, I went to the library. The chords I ended up playing on the tune are the same chords Jennings played when I first heard them. And he goes on to talk a little more about some of the rest of Native American there, but that's pretty amazing to me that such a great song as John Wilkes Booth was written so fast by Mary Chapin Carpenter. And this video is also about Mary Chapin Carpenter because I think she is a very, very great talent. And a lot of people, I mean, she's got a lot of recognition, but maybe not quite as much as she even should have got. I want to read her account of this same story here about how she came up with John Wilkes Booth. Chapin is quoted in the same book here. And this is what she says about that. She says, I was falling in love with bluegrass music. I lived in the Washington, D.C. area at the time. I started going to the Birchmere. In whatever incarnation Tony would play, I'd try to catch it. Gary Oles would let me sit behind the soundboard by Billy because I didn't have money to sit in a chair. After the shows, people would sit around and play, and that's when I got to know Tony. I was pretty shy, so it's not like I ever had deep conversations with the man. But I loved him so much, and he was always so kind. I don't remember the exact chain of events, but Tony asked me if I knew anything about John Wilkes Booth. I said no, other than what we read in our history books. Evidently, Tony had become fascinated with that era. He'd spent time around Port Tobacco and Ford Theater. He said, well, maybe you should write a song about him. The next day found me at the library, pulling out books to familiarize myself with the infamous event Booth was involved in. At that point, I was pretty immersed in Tony's style, but I also felt like I was well versed in terms of the kinds of non-bluegrass songs he was drawn to. When I started writing, I tried to hear those songs in my head. I wrote the song and demoed it up with my buddy John Jennings. I handed it over to Tony and never expected to hear another word. And then he told me he really liked it. Needless to say, the fact that it ended up on the next Tony record was the greatest compliment to me. So, what do you think about that, friends? I know a lot of you that watch this channel are familiar with the Native American record, and what a great song John Wilkes Booth is. And have to say that Chapin did an amazing job putting all the events surrounding that into a song. And she did such a wonderful job. Great melody, great lyrics, everything. And I also, like I said, I wanted to talk about Mary Chapin Carpenter. You know, a lot of the songs that I like even the best, I like some of her radio hits too. But some of the songs I feel that are her best are kind of hidden on some of her albums. And to talk about guitar playing, Mary Chapin Carpenter is an excellent acoustic guitar player. She plays a lot in fingerstyle that she uses a flat pick to. But some of her fingerstyle playing is just absolutely beautiful. The songs like I Am a Town comes to mind, John Doe, number 24, The Moon and St. Christopher. There are just so many. And, Chapin comes up with a lot of the tunings that she uses too on that. She hardly ever plays in just straight standard tuning. I mean, she does, but I think she prefers to play in alternate tunings if she can at all. And in fact, in Acoustic Guitar Magazine in 2016, Chapin was quoted as saying, "The guitar most of the time is what kicks something off for me. I play primarily in alternate tunings because I bore myself to tears in standard." So yeah. And I've always thought the Washington, D.C. scene up there was pretty neat as far as acoustic bluegrass music. I mean, you have the Seldom Scene that is from that area, the Birchmere that features a lot of acoustic acts up there, Mary Chapin Carpenter, Tony Rice back in the day. Seldom Scene was a regular there for years. And one of the things, Gary Olds, now I think I'm saying his name correctly, I'm not sure, I never met the man or heard his name pronounced, but Gary Olds, that owned the Birchmere, he actually helped Mary Chapin Carpenter get her first Grevin guitar, the one she plays a lot of the time. He helped her buy that guitar, fronted the money for her to get that guitar. And I know she's expressed her gratitude for that before. And there's a lot of other similarities too, like Tony Rice, as we know, recorded at Bias Recording Studios there in Springfield, Virginia a lot, close to D.C., and so did Mary Chapin Carpenter. A lot of her first several records was recorded at Bias Recording Studios. And also another connection, Ricky Simpkins plays on one of Mary Chapin's albums. The album is called State of the Heart, and Ricky plays fiddle and mandolin on that album. And of course, Ricky went on to become a member of the Tony Rice unit. So there's just all sorts of threads that kind of mingle together in the Washington, D.C. area. But I wanted to share that story with you today because that is such a great song. Tony Rice is such an amazing artist, and so is Mary Chapin Carpenter. And I think it's just really neat how those two combined, and Tony pitched an idea at Mary Chapin Carpenter, and she came back and presented him the great song, John Wilkes Booth. So I just thought I'd share that with you today. What do you think about that song, about Tony Rice, about Mary Chapin Carpenter? If you would, comment down below and let me know. And As always, friends, I've enjoyed talking to you, enjoyed getting to share these little stories with you here, and drop me a line and let me know what you think. Anyway, until next time, I appreciate it and much obliged to you.